Alright, here's everything you need to know about one variable equations. We'll be going through some definitions. I'll tell you why you need to learn them, different types of equations, and how to solve them, and then how to check your solutions so you're right every time. So we'll start with the definition. An equation is a statement that the values of two mathematical expressions are equal, and we use the equal sign to indicate this. A few examples: 3 plus 5 is 8, 3 plus x is 8, 3x plus 5 is 8, and 3 times the quantity, x plus 5, equals 8. And they're the solutions of all of them. The last one, x is negative 7 over 3. So why should you learn? Equations provide a very precise way to describe various features of the world. Secondly, everything from electricity to physics to chemistry to rocket science can be modeled by equations. And you can bet scientists do use them to model your technology. And by learning to manipulate equations, we learn how to use known information to find out unknown information. A very useful skill. So what kind of equations are there? Here's a short list. You have your basic 1- and 2-step equations, distributive property equations, and equations with variables on both sides. This isn't an exhaustive list. There are many other types of equations. But we'll get started with 1-step equations, which are solved like all other equations using inverse operations. Here with the first one, x plus 4 is 100. The inverse of plus 4 is minus 4. So we end up with x is 96. Moving on. Now we add 4. You'll get a canceled out term, and x is 104. So now what should we do if we have 4x? The opposite of multiply. We should, yes, divide. And when you do that, 4 over 4 will cancel, and 100 over 4 give you your solution. Now if we have x divided by 4, we want to do the opposite of divide. So we'll multiply. 4 over 4 cancels again, and 100 times 4, we get our solution. Moving on. If we have these 1-step equations, there might be some problems. So let's take a look at the one on the top left. We should add x to both sides. Negative x plus x will cancel out. It equals 0. And 100 plus x is 100 plus x. Do not combine unlike terms. Now how do I get the x by itself? By subtracting 100 on both sides. There's a cancel out. 4 minus 100 is negative 96. Now what if x is in the denominator? It's dividing x, so you just multiply x. We get a cancel out. 100 times x is 100x. And the opposite of times is divide. So you'll cancel out, and 4 over 100, you'll get 1 over 25. It's the simplified form. Now if you have x squared equals 100, you want to do the opposite of squaring, and that's the square root. The square root of x squared is x. The square root of 100 is 10. Moving on to 2-step equations. If we have 4x plus 15 is 115, let's move some things around and solve for x. So we could start by subtracting 15. 4x equals 100, and we've already done that. 4x minus 15 is 85. Let's add 15 to both sides. And you know the story from there. What if you have x minus 15 over 4? Well, over 4 just means divided by 4. So let's multiply. We'll get 4 over 4 to cancel out. 25 times 4, we get 100. So x minus 15 is 100. And that's just a 1-step equation. For the last one, it looks like the one on the top right, but instead of 4x, you have x over 4. So we will still add 15 to both sides. Now you have x over 4 is 100. Multiply that 4, and you'll get x equals 400. Now we have distributive property. What do you think we should do? Let's distribute. That means multiply. So we'll have 4 times x and 4 times 12. And the rest is just a two-step equation. We subtracted 48 on both sides, then we divide 4 on both sides. And the work should look like that. Now I'll show you another way of solving that. Since you have 4 times x plus 12, we could actually do the opposite of 4 times, which is to divide 4. 4 over 4 cancels out. 100 over 4 equals 25. So x plus 12 equals 25. We'll do the opposite of plus 12. And we'll get x equals 13. Same solution for the same equation. Next, we'll solve equations with variables on both sides. And we'll start by combining the like terms that are on the same side. So we'll look at our equation and ask if we see any like terms, that is, terms that have the same variable and same exponent. And we do. There's 15 and minus 2, as well as 2x plus 8. So we'll combine those terms. 15 minus 2 is 13, 2x plus 8x, 10x. Now I want to combine variables onto one side, so I'll subtract 5x, leaving me with 5x. And I can also subtract 13 from both sides. 33 minus 13 is 20. We'll have to divide 5 on both sides and get x equals 4. And that's our solution. Now, how would we want to check that to know if it's right? Because that's a lot of steps, and we might be wrong. Or we might have made a mistake somewhere. So let's check. If we got x equals 4, we could substitute that back in and see if it is a correct solution. So anywhere I see x, I will replace with a 4. Now the right side is easier to do, so we'll do that first. 5 times 4 is 20. 33 plus 20, we get 53. We'll see if the left side will be the same. So 2 times 4 is 8, and 8 times 4 is 32. And we simplify the left side, and it turns out to be 53. Well, if our two sides are equal, then that means x equals 4 is the solution. It is correct. So remember, every time you get a solution, you can substitute it back into the original equation to check if it's correct. You could do that every time. So you'll never be wrong. The end. If you didn't understand something, just rewind and play again.